Welcome to iAMradio number 11. Today I will be talking about what you're looking for and where's hashtag where it's at. And that's a pretty big statement. I know what you're looking for, and maybe I don't. This was what I was looking for, and I tore apart a lot of things trying to find it, myself included. And the irony of the whole human experience, in my humble opinion, is that you don't have to go anywhere. It's right here. Everything you're looking for is right here. And it kind of blows our Westernly conditioned modern minds, because if you don't have to look for anything, and you don't have to go and get anything, like, then what are you supposed to do? To get into this, I want to talk a little bit first about what judgment is, or how we'll just, rather than caveat every phrase and assertion I make going forward, let's just say all things here are in my humble opinion, and I encourage everybody to find their own truths and do their own thing. So I'm going to talk through what I found judgment to mean, acceptance, and possibly projection. What is judgment? Well, when we think about judgment, generally the first thing comes to mind is Judy, let's be serious. But after that, judgment usually comes down to, like, I judge this as good or I judge this as bad. Judgment is a lot more than that. It's actually the idea that you could know what anything is. You judge it to be, you judge something to be something. When you think about something, you're no longer thinking about the thing. You're thinking about an abstraction of the thing. You are thinking about your perception of the thing in isolation of the environment within which it exists naturally. And when you take something out of its environment, you can't really think about it. And it takes a little imagination and marination and some stuff to follow along with some of these ideas, because we're so used to thinking in language. But if you allow yourself to, Shauna, you want to get in my video? I don't know. Let me finish my presentation, and then I'd love to have you at a later date. I definitely want to start teaming on these. So I'll put you on, unless you did that by accident. I'll put that on for later. A different day. But thank you for being here. Okay, so what I'm talking about is when you call something by name and you think about it using the name that you've called it, you're no longer interacting with the actual thing. You are interacting with an abstraction of the thing. Why am I emphasizing this? Because most of your misery comes from thinking. And you think, when you're thinking, that you're doing something meaningful, something accurate, something helpful. But what you're doing actually is destroying what you have in something that is an imaginary exercise. When you think, you might say, like, well, duh, like, I need to think about stuff for work, or I need to think about how I'm going to pay my bills, or I need to think about how I'm going to care for my baby. Okay. There are, let's say, I'm pretty sure that what I'm saying extends to all thinking, and that sensation would be enough to accomplish most things. At the same time, or just even like allowing, kind of like I have this, bicep. It's there all the time. When I want to use it it very easily becomes a part of it without me thinking like, bicep on, go gadget bicep. Similarly, the mind sits there and can be a part of what you're doing and assist you in what you're doing without it dominating or controlling what you're doing. And why am I talking about the mind at all? Because it's like you, your mind, and then everything that you want. But your mind is so convincing, and it says, no, what you want isn't here. What you want was back there, and you miss it, and you're fucked. The rest of your life is over. Or what you want is over there where you can't have it because you're not this. So, well, you're screwed. No. If you saw my last presentation, I defined what we're looking for as essentially the experience of being yourself unfiltered, being in love, feeling free. That's what you're looking for. The only thing between you and that are your ideas that how you are naturally isn't correct. So, judgment is saying this is good and this is bad, which is illusory, and I talk about that a lot in all my other stuff, so I'm not going to get into it right now, but you don't know. Oh, I am getting into it. You don't know if something is good or bad at the time that it's happening. Time reveals additional information. Context extends beyond what you currently perceive, and your judgment of good or bad is based on the frame through which you're looking. If it's raining right now on your picnic, you might say, this is bad. But maybe because it rained on your picnic, you stayed home and cleaned out your drawer, which then became a part of this other thing, and it was like the best thing ever because you cleaned out your drawer. So was it really bad that it rained? And my vision, the hope in my heart, and having these talks is to free people by reminding them they are already free to have and enjoy the life that they want right now. So judgment is a cloud that goes over the sun that's always present, and judgment says, no, this isn't right. You may be plagued by varying degrees of this isn't right. I was plagued by a big degree. I was basically unable to appreciate anything I had or anything externally because of the massive cloud I had over, like, I need to figure out how to be something else. I have to be something else somewhere else. And if you don't clear clouds, you'll die. Eventually, not being able to bask in the sun that is always you. I don't mean that as a threat. I'm just saying, like, let's be real about it. And we can't actually die. So someone had asked me to talk more about how we don't exist. I don't think that this is the place for it, but you can't die because you don't exist. And when I say that, obviously it's coming with some stuff, like, meaning I'm not repeating what I read on the back of a Whole Foods reusable bag. I saw it. And there is so much freedom to contemplating that, because most of your fear, outside of being afraid you won't have access to love, is that you'll die, that other people will die. It seems to be a feature of this experience. And I'm not saying this like flippantly. I lost the person that was most important to me. That's how I got, like, that was a big shove for me into exploring, like, there's got to be something to make this pain go away. Did I know that's what I was seeking? No. I thought I was on a grand adventure from God, here to help other people. And partly, yes. Partly, no. You can't really tell. So going back to judgment is saying, like, I know what this is. And we use judgment to describe our actions. This is why things are that. In my story right now, I have posted a clip from a movie called Mr. Nobody, And it's at the beginning of the movie, and it's talking about pigeons. And it's like, pigeons will figure out if you press a lever, you get a treat. And also, if you just release treats randomly every 20 seconds, the pigeon will repeat whatever it was doing when the treat came out, because it connects those two things. We do this. We think that we can control and lead our experience because there were two things that happened at the same time, and we're like, oh, must be that. But there's so much more happening at any given time to actually say, like, these two things are causally related. It makes our mind feel comfortable, which is why we really do it, so that we're like, oh, I don't have to worry because I understand, which frees me to be here. But you really can't understand. You have the illusion of understanding. And so if you want to go through the illusion of the work to understand, you can. I did for years, deeply, almost entirely. But what you're looking for, again, is really just a relationship to yourself and to what is without resistance, which is the same as without judgment, which is the same as saying, I don't know what anything is for. A Course in Miracles is an incredible text. I reference it a lot. I don't know what anything is for is like a whole lesson there. And when I first started with the text in 2016, I had no frigging idea what that even meant. But as I read it, it felt true to me. And so I stayed with it. It wasn't until recently that I could see how language creates this container around things, and we use the templates that we have for understanding ourselves and lives, which we've learned mostly through film and television and through storytelling and media. We use these templates to understand things, and in our understanding, something that is essentially without meaning, we apply meaning to it. And why that's really important to recognize is that most of the templates that you have for interpreting reality, they kind of suck. Yeah, you might get to play the hero role, but the hero generally loses a bunch of stuff, has to fight a bunch of stuff, and never really gets to enjoy. He's too busy. What if it was possible to have the adventure without all that other stuff? And is it? I'm at this place now where I used to identify as somebody who had to fight. And you don't hear in your head like, oh, I need to keep fighting for life, fighting to survive, fighting to get better. You hear thoughts downstream from that. And thoughts downstream from that are like, it's generally some pursuit. It's some kind of dissatisfaction. And you can apply the dissatisfaction overtly, saying like, I must get better. So there you're having an idea related to an idea it's a little, the relationship's a little bit more obvious. Or you might put your dissatisfaction on your partner or your job or something completely unrelated and think that that's the problem. But you have dissatisfaction, and then you look for something to dress up as the cause of the dissatisfaction. When you practice, and the moral of my story today is like, where are you trying to get at? # where it's at and how you get there. When you practice, there's only one thing you need to do, which is to allow yourself to be here in acceptance, which is the same as kind of quieting your mind, which is the same as being open to the truth that you really don't know what anything is for. You only think you do. And I started off running. There was something to tie that back to, and it'll probably come to me, but let's say, so going back to judgment. Judgment is saying, I know what this is, and I know the role that it plays. You don't, and you can't. There are so many things in your life, I bet, if you looked at what you initially thought it wasn't. And if you still think it's the same thing, I'd be curious about that too. And judgment is what holds us apart from the sensation of things are okay. We think that we know that they're not. For example, the world right now. Am I right? WTF. a lot of people through the pandemic, and these jumped up on their own, and no disrespect at all to anything involved in it. My point is more like it's a word, it's a concept, it's a way to understand something that is always a part of something larger and completely ununderstandable without understanding, ununderstanding, whatever the most available word, unknownness. Most people were sitting, like a lot of people had the experience of like, this really sucks, I can't do my life as normal, like everything's interrupted. And then some people within that block were like, maybe there's something else for me to do. And they used it as an opportunity to look within, or they got perspective on things that they were too close to before to see properly, maybe about how they use their time or value their family or their health or whatever. So here's this thing that's bad that has allowed for a lot of good. And I use these this time intentionally because you cannot know. To start to put this into practice, to free yourself from the, tentacles of an octopus or a giant squid. Here's your son just out minding its business. Your joy, your peace, your freedom. You being you without judgment in the world as it is, both macro and micro, allowing for yourself to enjoy and love whatever is messy or bright or whatever. And judgment comes in like this big squid, and it's like, let me tell you why you can't. And again, I'm not coming at this from, like, I didn't ride a rainbow to this. I dug through the really terrible, awful, dirty things and really challenging experiences to only find out, like, I didn't really have to. You don't really have to. This is saying, like, I don't postpone my joy until. And what's interesting about that, going back to judgment, oops, I wrote backwards, messed up my J. The interesting thing about that is you only think that thing in the future would give you joy. Isn't that crazy? There's a ton of Zen quotes about how the gist is, like, wherever you go, there you are. And then, therefore, the only practice really is that of how you perceive and narrate your experience. What is your practice or habit of judging? So much of our mental activity, so much of this squid is habit. It's habit. You're not thinking, here, let me screw up my moment by contemplating things that scare me in a way that I don't know that I'm actually scared. I just think I want them to be different or this to be different, which is actually a form of control, which is me thinking that maybe if I could control it, I would be safe. And if I was safe, then I could relax and be here. You see, it's so silly. But anyhow, most of this is just habit. You could have patterned it after the voices outside of you as a child. You could have patterned it off the media. You don't even really have to actually hear somebody else's record of let me analyze why this is bad and worry to do it. We exist in a vibrational grid. Going back to the illusion, I look solid, but I'm not. And it sounds trippy, but if you think of, and I say this a lot in all my stuff too, if you think of a bicycle wheel with spokes, when the bicycle wheel's at rest, you can poke your hand right through the spokes. But let's say somebody comes up and they wheel it, Price of Right style, 90 miles per hour, then the bike wheel no longer looks, one, you can't put your hand through it anymore, but two, it looks solid. And so we have this illusion of solidity and separateness that underpins a lot of our false thinking that causes the clouds that hold us apart from this experience. So in I forget where I picked up that thread too. Hopefully they all come together in the end. Okay, so with judgment, it's saying, let me think. And again, when you start to pay attention to your inner dialogue, it really isn't that obvious. It's not that obvious that you're thinking, let me go control this. It's very subtle, and it can just be really about analyzing or trying to understand what other people are doing. So I think I'm gonna start to wrap it up and let this be the main point here. So you have this core agitation, and the agitation is essentially some kind of uncomfortable emotion. Your mind is like, don't worry, boo. I'll figure out how to alleviate you from feeling that. And again, it's not that obvious. It does it a bunch of different ways. And then your mind starts to go. And the larger your discomfort, the more that your mind goes. And this actually feeds into the discomfort because you're thinking about really scary things. So it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so does that really help? What I would suggest to do, or what you could practice or experiment with if you wanted, is to give yourself 2 days and say like, all right, maybe this chick maybe there's something there. When you notice that your mind is trying to anticipate things, analyze or understand things from behind you, have imaginary conversations this way, that way, like when you notice that your mind is doing all types of things, notice, or let it be possible, that that's actually a result of some underlying agitation. So rather than chase the thoughts, I think of them like chickens. You have a coop, you have a bunch of chickens, your chickens are running loose. Good luck chasing your chickens down. Instead, what if you put something in the center for them all to come to, something they all loved? I don't know what chickens eat these days or like what they're into, but you put whatever that is in the center of the barnyard and let the chickens come home on their own. So what you would do if you notice a lot of this mental activity is bring yourself to right now. And usually it helps to have a physical cue. So you could snap and say like, we're right here, right here, right here. I like to put my hands on my body and just breathe and try to use my mental awareness to try to feel other parts of my body. So right now you're likely in a full human suit. How much of your human suit are you aware of? How much of your environment are you aware of? Do you know what it smells like? What's the temperature of the air on your skin? What do your socks feel like? Is it like, what's the fabric of your shirt like? So can you feel your organs, your knee muscles? Generally, you only feel stuff that hurts, but it's there to feel all the time. So what you can do when you're noticing the mental activity, instead of take the bait and chase the chickens, bring yourself in and say like, oh, I know what this is. And just let yourself practice. Set an intention, 2 days. I'm just going to do this for 2 days and see what happens. Bring yourself here to the present moment. Call yourself in using some kind of physical cue. We're right here, right here, right here, right here. And you breathe. And you change your physiology, which then changes your thinking. You come out of fight or flight, and over time that helps you connect with these things that you're looking for or you think you'll find if you chase the chickens or get the chickens to do cool tricks or get other people's chickens out of your yard. Like all the things that you think will yield you relief are here waiting for you. Isn't that adorable? Partly, I think the concern that we have, or at least I did, in adopting this as possibly true, is that it's like, but I have to be great. If I'm not great, like I have to go do something incredible. If I'm not doing, I'm wasting myself in my life. I posted a quote the other day about happiness being kind of like small. Would you rather everybody knew who you were? Would you rather that you revolutionized the whole industry? Or would you rather that like you lived a joyful life and rippled outward in that way. And it's not to say that you couldn't or wouldn't do revolutionary things from your joyous place. It's just to say, like, is it maybe, do you need, it's a chicken. It's a chicken that a lot of us in our generation are chasing, which is like, you gotta be big, you gotta be great. But isn't it kind of great to be kind and loving and present and attentive to the things that you have responsibility for? And doesn't it make kind of sense to be like in your life? Because let's say that you did do something revolutionary, and partly this is like, obviously this is a big theme for me. I think of it like, if you have in your soul a love for swimming and you want to be an incredible swimmer, you're going to spend a lot of time at the pool. You may miss things that other people are doing. They don't resonate or feel as good to you as practicing your craft. So when you're relaxing to here, it doesn't mean that you have to sit at like on the couch with a Mai Tai. It just means that your mind is relaxed and surrendered to what is happening now and what your priority is, which actually allows you to dedicate even more of yourself to your craft because you're there with it. You're not with some abstraction of where it could be or where it should be or where you'll take it next. You're with it. So if you're learning to dance, there's a component of choreography and there's a component of music, and it's kind of like both at the same time. And I think a lot of the things that I've come to see in the last year or so is really this concept of both and balance and the relativity of rightness. So it's not to say like, don't learn choreography, don't dance without it. It's sort of saying like, each thing has its place, and you know what place, which one is proper now. When you're here for it, you can make the call of this would be the appropriate step. Does anyone have any questions, thoughts, feelings, ideas? Is this too far out? If you're watching the playback, I'd like to know how this fits to where you are and what you're working on. I think it'll take me several iterations of this topic to get it. Partly why I'm doing this series is to practice talking about some of these things. I work with clients one-on-one, and when I'm doing that, I'm tailoring these concepts to their exact point and like where they exactly are. And that's pretty natural and easy for me to talk about them broadly in general without a specific question that I'm pointed at. Is new. Not new. I've been doing it for like 5 years, but new for this bucket of information. And it is a little bit more abstract, and we're kind of removed. I'm basically telling you, you can live as the Buddha in your regular life, and it doesn't mean that you just sit and giggle all day, although you can. It just means that you maintain that composure as life flows past you, because it's your judgment on the stream that's causing you all types of grief. When you watch something float by on the river and you think, my favorite chair, I'll never get my chair again. Ah! You don't see the next better chair that's floating along or how that created space for something else. So it's not the river of life. A lot of the work that I've been doing for myself and for my clients for a few years was like, let's control the river. And you can in some ways through your intention and expectation, and there are ways to like lead the river, but really like you are the river. So, and like it's a bigger river than just you and yours. So it seems more pointed, more beneficial, more like what you're actually trying to do by controlling it, to learn how to be present to life without judging it in a way that takes you, that holds you apart from the sun that's always there, always, even if it's complete cloud coverage, like it's always there. And pointing this out, what I'm saying is you don't need to wait until you've healed all of your childhood wounds. You don't need to wait until you've left your relationship or got your relationship, or you're healthy, or you got your Brazilian booty, or whatever it is. You do not have to wait to allow yourself to be in this place. And in truth, as far as I can tell, when you're here, all of those other things are a natural expression of it. And it's just our thinking and our patterns of thinking that have made us think, oh, first I'll get that and then I'll feel this. But you, with your cloud coverage and your patterns, are going to be at that later state. So even if there is satisfaction or relief at the accomplishment of it, it won't last long, because it's a pattern of thinking that generates the thoughts that cause the clouds that cover the sun. So no matter where you are, until you learn how to manage your weather, it really won't make that much of a difference, which is beautiful. Beautiful. That means that you don't, you're in charge. It took a lot for me to let go and allow for this. And I think that's true for many people who have found this kind of peace. You don't really I lost my dreams 4 or 5 times, crushed. I had my dreams crushed 4 or 5 times. I lost the most important person in my life. I lost several very significant relationships. It wasn't until all of those, it's like, it took a while for me to accept that there's nothing that's going to bring me peace except the recognition that peace is already here. And from that place, all of the trauma or the pain or the loss or the fear related to those things it doesn't play a role anymore. I'm free to move forward, even though I know those things can happen. When you start out and you're naive and you go into life, you don't think it'll be you. You don't plan to have really your dreams crushed. And it's not, after that, most people, I coach a lot of love and relationships. If someone's had their heart broken or they've lost a relationship, it's super hard for them to think yeah, I'm gonna go out there again, because they know how much it sucks if it doesn't work. And yet, a lot of the sucking is a feature of judgment on the river. So yes, the river it can have a little spark to it. But the bigness of it really is the narration, and that is always under your leadership. So any questions, thoughts, feelings, comments before I close? The next one I want to do, I would like to know how this fits or resonates with where you are. And the next one I want to do, I think, is, oh darn it, it's a note on my phone. Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody, for coming. It's been a pleasure to have you. Enjoy your day.